We are now entering into the Blackwell series, Wadjet's signature franchise and one of the most interesting examples of the studio's evolution. Blackwell began well before Ben Chandler joined the studio, meaning every game in the series had different artists and wildly different styles from game to game. Blackwell Legacy, today's subject, had character art done by Ian Schlapfer, background art by Tom Skerry and Chris Femo, and concept art by Matt Gardner. The end result of all these various different artists mashing their styles together is a very bizarre lack of cohesion that oddly works, like mixing together the Monkey Island-like portrait arts to the more realistic character portraits to even against the contemporary yet still notably blocky and flatly colored backgrounds. They don't really fit together, but these styles are strong enough to work together despite, giving the game a strange charm you never see from a more established studio. Also of note is composer Peter GRESSER. He handled the new music for the kosher edition of the Shiva, which you may remember me using in my last video, along with the 2014 release The Golden Wake and some of Francisco Gonzalez's solo series, Ben Jordan. It's a shame he hasn't done more music for the studio's production because it has an energy to it that really stuck with me in my head upon replay, especially the oddly poppy NYU theme, which starts with electronic buzzes spaced out to create a sort of hook. His sound really sticks out among the more traditional scores in later games. The voice acting is also fairly strong, despite most of it being recorded in Dave Gilbert's room, a little tidbit I pulled from the Techno Babylon commentary track. Abe Goldfarb deserves special mention, who I failed to bring up for his work voicing Stone in the Shiva last episode. He's one of the most notable reappearing voice actors in Wadjet's library, constantly stealing the show, which is exactly what he does here with Joey, the ghost partner of Rose, filling him with emotion while giving him a distinct dialect in the process. Blackwell Legacy builds on the mechanical foundations of the Shiva fairly well, making a clue mechanic more complex by letting Rosa combine notes in her notebook to find connections, and also creating more dialogue puzzles that go with different angles beyond reproducing the insult sword fighting puzzle from the Monkey Island series. It also has a great sense of atmosphere the Shiva originally lacked before the kosher edition released. The fact that this released the same year as the Shiva is surprising, but it makes more sense when you realize this concept had been toyed with in shareware form as the game Bestowers of Eternity since 2003. Where the Shiva was a free project built within a few months for a contest, and then reworked as a commercial release in a few months after that, the Blackwell Legacy was being worked on behind the scenes for far longer and had more time for polish. The strength of the thematic core of the story isn't as strong as it was in the Shiva, but this is partly because of the structure of the Blackwell series. Unlike most of the rest of Wadjet's work, the Blackwell games are told with an episodic narrative, every game introducing a bit of lore to create a larger story that fits into the case of the weak structure of the games. This first entry is focused on cementing who our main characters are, what they do, and the basic rules of the universe, and all of this is handled fairly well. Rose gets a lot of definition as a lead, establishing her family troubles in an opening scene where she scatters her aunt's ashes, admitting she doesn't know if she loves or hates this person, then showing her introverted side by showing how awkward she is around a doorman she's getting annoyed by and a neighbor she's trying to converse with, and then showing her creative side from there by just letting you explore her apartment and all the things she keeps in it. Dave Gilbert definitely has a great understanding of how to make a great character, and his feel for New York really shines here just from the diverse cast and the way people carry on. The "Who Drives in New York" line at the beginning of the game is pretty great in particular. The premise is that Rose is a part of a family of mediums, where the women become spiritually aware at some point in their lives and are tasked with helping spirits move on through a ghostly partner named Joey. Rose isn't aware of this, though, and reacts to these revelations in a realistic way, by assuming she's gone crazy. It works here compared to other similar stories because a lot of time is used to establish her family history, with their spiritual awareness being mistaken for insanity, which in turn creates more lore, as hinted by Joey that Rose's aunt became unbalanced not because she could sense ghosts, but because of mistakes she made on the job. The game does a great job at creating a rich mythology, going step by step, revealing just enough to hook a player for future adventures. It's like a high-end TV pilot, creating likable characters and a fun starter plot that eases you into the world and leaves you wanting more. It also helps that Joey, the so-called legacy of the Blackwell bloodline, makes for a great comedic relief, his brash and boastful 1920s Fox tough guy personality clashing with Rose's modern cynicism and morally aware self. The main mystery also has an interesting angle to it, not really giving us an outright villain like the later games would, resulting in a morally gray story filled with people acting emotionally to situations far beyond understanding. It only gets more and more engaging the more you learn, the short length benefiting the story by letting it end without it wearing out its basic premise. However, because this is meant to be an introduction and not a full story, the game never has a moment quite as strong as the Shiva's ending. That's not to say it's vapid, though. The game's ongoing theme is dealing with death and the impossible, seeing how people cope with frightening, abnormal situations they can't find a sane and rational answer to, or just basic loss and what it means to finally die. It's a fantastic ghost story because the ghosts are treated not as monsters, but as broken, scared people. For the living, dealing with these spirits is even more horrifying, as the game purposely plays on the tension that comes from nobody believing that your pain is real. A bit of this applied to Rose herself, as a doctor mistakes her family's spiritual powers as a form of mental instability that goes from generation to generation. This theme gets downplayed a bit in later games, but it makes for a strong first showing. It's a surprising melancholy experience, even with the great sense of humor. There's no feeling of accomplishment or even personal fulfillment for Rose or Joey at the end, just the knowledge that they have to help the dead and living by extension, and whatever normal life they may have wanted will never be. The game ends on an uncertain note, and that decision was the perfect choice for the story. The Blackwell series is very special, and while the first game doesn't show this in full, it does show a strong foundation waiting to be built off of.
Storm